Way to total satisfaction. Man's nature is to know, to explore. This urge makes him climb the highest mountains and brave the hazards of space. This fundamental drive stems, consciously or unconsciously, from his yearning to know himself, to know why he is alive and what his place is in the scheme of things. Socrates' famous dictum was, "Know thyself." In the Bible it is written, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Upanishads inspire men to arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is achieved. What is the way to achieve the truth or ultimate goal of man's life? Satsang is important because it brings a man closer to truth. All the doubts of a man are removed by satsang, that is, holy discourses. Truth is a thing to know, and whosoever has described it as truth must have known it as such by some means or other. The first prerequisite to know truth is the company of saints and Sadguru, who lays the foundation of spirituality in the aspirant of truth. Truth is one, but expressed in different ways by seers of truth. Truth is the ultimate reality beyond all mental concepts and thought constructs. In fact, truth, peace, bliss, God are synonyms and imply the all-pervading reality. Satsang and knowledge explodes the truth within man. Satsang is the explosion of the peace bomb. Art of listening is more important than art of speaking. If satsang is listened with total attention, transformation of listener takes place instantaneously. The glory of satsang is beyond description. It has the potential to change and evolve even men with negativity. We have stories of persons like Valmik and Narad and Unglimal who became great knower of truth after coming in the company of saints and spiritual luminaries. If we want total satisfaction, peace and truth, we have to get ourselves immersed in satsang. According to Guru Nanak, satsang is one where one word, that is one truth, is glorified. Satsang has wide ramifications. In its true sense, it is the transmission of word vibrations by enlightened soul to the seeker of truth and can be compared with a burning candle which can burn many other candles. Satsang also gives insight into the scriptures of all the great masters and tunes up the mind of a man to receive the truth. It is like preparing the ground for sowing the seed. It is the law of nature to which our scriptures subscribe that this creation consists of 5 basic elements, and the science admits too that the creation is made up of elements. The only difference between the scripture and science is that the latter speaks of more than 5 elements. But when we look into the smallest particle of element, which we call atom, it becomes clear to us that an activity is taking place all over the universe which is not visible to these physical eyes. The electrons are circling around the nucleus in an extremely subtle manner, in the same manner as all the planets are circling around the sun. Whatever we see, whether it is a building or this physical body, it contains millions and millions of atoms. Similarly, there are countless atoms in the atmosphere. Even this one drop of water contains innumerable atoms. From this, we can make out how small a part of a particle is an atom really. When the scientists studied, they came to a unanimous conclusion that electrons circle around the nucleus. Among the Hindus, there is a similar ritual whereby the devotees do circumambulation around the object of their worship. The only reason that a devotee does circumambulation around his idol is to treat himself as a planet. But when we see it from a scientific point of view, when we observe the atoms through an electronic microscope, we see that the electrons are moving at a very high speed around the nucleus. Now the question arises as to what the power, that is energy, is, which is driving those electrons round and round. Now, what are the activities of electrons, of atoms? Whosoever studies chemistry knows that all the atoms combine with one another simply to become inert, to become satisfied. In the same way, the only desire of this human body, which is made up of millions of atoms, is to attain inertness, satisfaction. Therefore, to whatever sect, to whatever religious group we go, we find concepts like heaven, salvation, etc. Because the evolution, the optimum limit, the goal of a man has been defined as salvation, as the state of supreme consciousness, as the state of samadhi. As a matter of fact, when a man is born, the very fact that he gets a human body is itself an opportunity. By availing this opportunity, by knowing the Supreme Soul, by knowing his own self, he attains salvation. Once, the great saint Swami Dayanand was out looking for this knowledge. While he was thus searching, he came to know that this knowledge can be had from a great soul named Swami Birjananji. Having known this, he came searching to Swami Birjananji's cottage. It was already dark. He knocked Swamiji's door. Swamiji said from inside, "Who is there?" Dayanand replied, "Revered sir, had I known who I am, I would not have come here at this time." It is true, a man does not know what he actually is. While one is alive, one cannot say, "I am merely the hand or the skin or the sense organ or the element, or I am such and such." If we look at a body, we will find different phenomena in it. It speaks, it walks, it laughs, it performs various actions. But a time comes when the same body is said to be dead and is cremated or is consumed in fire. So, we have to think, where lies the difference between a living and a dead man? What mysterious element is that in absence of which we call a body dead? The mystery of the mysteries is called the life breath, whose dimensions only spiritualists, saints, and masters have explored, which sustains and keeps us alive and is the gift of the Supreme. In the Old Testament, it is written that God created man from the dust of the earth. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. This breath of life that God has breathed into us, this prana shakti, is within each and every one of us. This prana shakti gives us life and energy which flows constantly from Sat Chit Anand, the Supreme Truth, consciousness and bliss. It has been called the cosmic vibration and word or name of God in all scriptures. In the Bible, it is said, "In the beginning was the Word, The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Guru Nanak Dev says that earth is that Word, sky is that Word, and Word permeates all and lightens all. The entire creation emanates from it, and it dwells within every heart. All the scriptures invariably glorify that Word, which contains and sustains the whole of creation. It is eternal. Guru Nanak Dev says, it has always been truth, and is truth, and will remain truth. So what is that Word, which is eternal and original, which contains the whole universe and is present in every speck of matter? This is the Word which we have to realize. All religions and all scriptures talk about it. A wise man gives the knowledge of that mysterious element called the cosmic vibration, which is original and eternal and dwells in our heart. The knowledge of this Word cannot be got from scriptures, even if we learn them by heart. All the scriptures make it clear for the seeker of truth that he has to go to the wise and knower of the truth for the knowledge of the primordial vibration called Word. In the Gita, it is said in chapter 4, Shlok 34, so prostrate before the wise seers and through service receive that knowledge. Those who know the mysteries will give you that knowledge. With the knowledge, you will have no more delusion, and within your eternal, imperishable spirit, you will clearly see God. If you are the worst among sinners, even then the boat of knowledge will free you from all sins. As gold disintegrates in fire, so sins are consumed in the fire of knowledge. There is nothing as pure and holy as this knowledge. The yogi, endowed with faith through long meditation, experiences that knowledge within his heart and wins over his senses. That man soon attains knowledge and obtains supreme peace. The ignorant, faithless, and confused perish. We see so many people around every day. What, after all these people doing? Has God created men for the simple reason that a person should toil like an ox for his children, or that he should sit in a motor car like a worm of silk seated on mildew? So many crimes, so many violent acts are being committed on this earth by men. What conclusion would a person draw after having seen this? Has God created men for the sake of committing violence only? According to the opinion of the saints, God has not created man for these things, but has created him to know himself. The actions performed by a man are meant for attaining the end. For example, when we take a bus, our purpose is not to go in the bus, but to go home by the bus. No one just sits in the bus after taking a ticket, but with the help of the bus, he reaches home. So the bus is not his home. The bus is simply a means to take him to his destination. Similarly, this life, as well as all the activities this life is made up of, for example, eating, drinking, sleeping, duty towards the family, earning money, etc., are all the different means only to attain the final goal. So, the aim of our life is to attain the goal. So, what is the goal? All the realized souls, all the saints have said that God alone is our goal. Or call him the super soul, peace, or by any other word, but at the end it will be clear that a man is searching for a supreme being, searching for something higher than himself. It is like a porter who looks for a person who can pay him good money. A beggar looks for an affluent man. Similarly, we too go to God like a beggar and beg, and after what we get from Him, we become ever so thankful. Man becomes ever so grateful. Therefore, man must have the quality of searching. It is said that when an aspirant proceeds in search of Brahman, he certainly has vision of the Lord one day or the other. It is the duality which in other words is called ignorance. Ignorance is nothing but absence of knowledge. There is nothing called darkness. The absence of light is darkness. Then there is multiplicity, which is nothing but the vicious circle of illusion, that is Maya. The duality of a man ends only after he receives knowledge. But the multiplicity in a man, which is nothing but Maya's deception, is like a handcuffed man sitting inside a prison. When the handcuff will go off, he will be free, but he must know the way out of the prison. Similarly, a man verily becomes free after he receives knowledge. But since he remains within the purview of Maya, he needs devotion to get out of Maya. Maya is the appearance which hides the reality. It delimits the consciousness and divides the one into many. It is the Maya which creates the separateness between the Jiva and the God. The tentacles of Maya are very strong. Like the gravitational pull, it binds us to the gross and material. Lord Krishna says that it is very difficult to transcend and cross his Maya. But he himself lays down the royal path and calls it Ananya Bhakti, that is, exclusive, selfless and disinterested devotion towards God and Guru Maharaj. It is this type of devotion which can save man from Maya and give him the realization of God. Therefore, he needs disinterested devotion. There is a difference between interested and disinterested devotion, because when a devotee performs disinterested devotion, even if he commits a mistake, God does not become displeased with him. In whatever way he may be performing devotion, if his main attitude of devotion is selflessness, God accepts it. Lord Krishna once went to the house of his devotee Bidur, but the latter was not at home. Bidur's wife was inside the house. When she came to know that the Lord had come, she was overjoyed. She became so much intoxicated with joy that she did not have the outer sense if she had her clothes or not. So the Lord covered her with his special pitambari dress. Bidur's wife brought bananas to entertain her guest. In her ecstatic mood, she started throwing away the pulp and started feeding the Lord with the peel instead. But since at the root of this action, the motive was selfless devotion, the Lord ate the peel with both hands. The Lord was enjoying himself even in that because he was hungry of selfless devotion. But if while performing interested devotion, a person commits an error, his downfall is absolutely certain. King Rig can be cited as an example of this. He was renowned for his charity. Once he donated 1,000 cows, but one cow came back to him because he had donated it once before. Since it was considered a sin to donate a cow twice, he had to become a lizard. So the idea behind the above stories is that devotion is true devotion, which is selfless. In Gita, the Lord says that one who will offer me a leaf a fruit, a flower, or anything with a genuinely selfless devotion, I shall manifest myself to accept the offering. One should have devotion for the sake of devotion only, and not for the sake of desire. That is why the Lord says that the work performed with a desireless devotion is really sacred. As it is, we do something or other in life, but how do we know that from today our desireless actions have begun? How do we know that we have become devotees free of desire? To know this, we need to have knowledge. To keep this feeling of desirelessness eternal and in equilibrium, eternal principles are necessary. Eternal knowledge is necessary. Lord Krishna says, O Arjuna, the knowledge I am giving you, the same knowledge I gave to King Bibhasvana at the beginning of the creation. At the beginning of the creation, there was neither any language nor culture. So it is apparent that the knowledge transcends all languages. What is that knowledge? What is that word which we accept as the indestructible Brahman? We presume that it will be some kind of a letter or alphabet or mantra, but in fact it is the word which is beyond alphabets and languages, and all letters and alphabets emanate from that word. It is unspeakable word, the mother of all languages. It is the cosmic vibration called Paravani. If we analyze scientifically, we will find that all words, spoken or unspoken, are vibrations. Look, as we speak, our vocal cords vibrate. With it, the diaphragm within the microphone also vibrates. Following that, the horns within the loudspeakers vibrate. By its vibrations, the molecules in the atmosphere also vibrate, and the vibration reaches the membrane of the ears, and as a result, the membranes of the ears start vibrating in the same frequency, and thus a person can hear what we say. This is purely a scientific interpretation of how a person listens. If we make a study, it will be clear that there is nothing in this world which is not vibrating. Everything, including atoms, electrons, protons, all are vibrating. The primordial vibration, the source of all the vibrations, has been defined as the Word. It has been defined as the holy name, the sacred name, and it exists in all living beings. It is a vibration, and as soon as it goes out of the heart, a man is called dead. When it goes out of the heart, it means that it has stopped being manifested. Rather, it demanifests itself. Just as a tree exists within a seed and we know about it although we cannot see it, similarly, when a man dies, that omnipotent word demanifests itself. Just as on being touched a tortoise gathers up its limbs, similarly, the power which manifested itself earlier demanifests itself. So the contention is that the power, that is, vibration or word, which exists in every man, can be realized. The word called holy name, Ram Nam, is the original manifestation of Brahman. The different names like Krishna, Ram, Om Namah Shivaya, Om, etc. of God, which people generally utter or recite, are adjective names. They are not the original one. Saint Kabir says that innumerable are the names of God, but devotee cannot get salvation by reciting those names. The original and the secret name only rare one knows. who is blessed by Guru Maharaj. When an aspirant goes to the door of the spiritual teacher with an intention of seeking and prays with a guileless heart, the latter gives him the knowledge of the holy name which is already within him. So it exists in every heart, and it is within every heart that it has to be found out. Saying to men that he cannot see and realize God which dwells within the heart, says Saint Tulsidas. We are so much extroverted that we cannot enjoy the music of divine symphony within ourselves. What is the plight of man today? In spite of scientific advancement, he is restless and unhappy. He has no satisfaction. In spite of all worldly possession, there is a vacuum in his life, which no riches can fulfill, no wealth and power fulfill it. There is some missing link in his life which debars him from getting total satisfaction, satiation and perfection. This is the real dilemma of man. He may scale the heights of the mountain, he may merge into the depth of the sea, or may fly to the moon and explore other planets. But the restlessness within, the vacuum within, always reminds him of his incompleteness, which no political philosophy or system can fulfill. It is only the saints and spiritual masters who have the remedy for this chronic illness, and who, by their grace and knowledge, give the total satisfaction and fulfillment in life. There is a story that 4 persons crossed a river. After crossing it, they started counting themselves to know that all have come safely alive from the fast current of the deep river. While counting, everyone counted others but not himself, and as a result, they found 1 out of the 4 missing. They started weeping and crying. Just by chance, a saint passed by them and inquired from them the reason of their crying. They told him the entire story and said that one of them has drowned in the deep river. The saint was wise enough and found all the 4 alive. He said that all of you were committing a mistake, that while counting you were counting others and not your oneself. That is why you were deluded and out of ignorance, weeping and crying. This is what happens to every person. He counts others, knows others, but not himself. The ignorance of self is the root of ignorance which causes all miseries and restlessness. There cannot be light if the electric circuit is incomplete. Similarly, man's life cannot be full of light and peace if the circuit of his life is not complete. The circuit is completed only when the knowledge of the self is imparted to a person by an enlightened soul called spiritual master. Then he finds out the missing link, and by knowing it, he gets total satisfaction and completeness in life, which is known as salvation. Lord Krishna says that I will reveal you that knowledge, O Arjuna, by knowing which nothing remains to be known. I am talking of that knowledge. God has given us an opportunity in this human body to receive that knowledge, and in natural process of evolution to get fully evolved. Swami Vivekananda says that every soul is destined to be perfect, and human frame is the golden opportunity to perfect oneself. One may ask, how shall I know my true self and search it within? The scriptures tell us that we have to go to spiritual master who awakens us to our higher self. How are we to know a teacher then? Well, this is really no problem. We do not need a candle or a torch to look for the sun. When the sun rises, we instinctively become aware of the fact. And when a teacher of men comes to help us, the soul will instinctively know that truth has already begun to shine upon it. Truth stands on its own evidence. It does not require any other testimony. It is self-effulgent. Sun reveals itself on its own. Similarly, the great soul incarnates and he speaks remarkable things. He will tell you things which will be agreeable to you and touch the very core of your spirit. People talk a lot about gurus, but only that person who can remove doubts from our minds can be called a guru. There are many religious teachers in this world who are able to relieve you of your money but not your sufferings. First test the teacher, and only then receive initiation and become his disciple. Anyone who adopts a teacher without first scrutinizing him is sure to drown in the worldly ocean. The guru is the dispeller of darkness. The gu means darkness and ru means light. The guru is one who shows the divine light and removes the darkness of Maya. Now let us try to visualize the scene of Kurukshetra battlefield where the two armies of Pandavas and Kauravas were standing face to face. The great warrior Arjuna stood between the two armies and Lord Krishna accompanied him as his charioteer. Arjuna was completely nervous and was not capable of fighting. When this was his state of mind, the Lord decided to give him knowledge and told him that the knowledge he was giving was the sovereign of all sciences and was supreme. He advised Arjuna to meditate on it constantly and fight as well. It is a matter to be considered as to what that knowledge could be which was imparted to Arjuna in the given situation. Since Arjuna was standing before the Lord himself, it is clear that the latter did not direct the former to go to a temple. In that case, what did he point out to Arjuna? So far as Arjuna was concerned, he might have observed sacrifices, other rituals, and read scriptures before he received knowledge from the Lord. The people of that age, Dwapar Yuga, were very religious, and so whatever rituals we observe now, they might have been observing them as well. But in spite of observing all those, Arjuna attained cowardice and said humbly, "Revered Sir, I do not see any way out. Please accept me and keep me under your shelter." Now, what was that thing which the Lord made him to realize, and realizing by which Arjuna quickly apologized to him and said, "I have addressed you as my friend by mistake, but you are in fact the Guru of Gurus." The Lord said very clearly, "O Arjuna, you cannot see my real form with these physical eyes of yours. But the funniest part of the thing is that every one of us, whether we live in India or abroad, want to see his real form with these carnal eyes. But then, how else will a devotee see him?" So Lord Krishna says that he will give him, Arjuna, a divine eye called third eye or Shiv Netra. You too know that if you want to see bacteria, you cannot see them with naked eyes. You need microscope to see them. So, it will be absolutely necessary for us to have the divine eye, the third eye, to see God, who is omnipotent and is subtler than the subtlest. Many people put us this question that if God is omnipotent, why cannot we see Him, realize Him? Well, you have TV center in your town, and the TV waves which are coming from these center exist all over the atmosphere. But if you want to see those TV pictures, you cannot see them as it is. To see these pictures, you need a TV set. When you buy a TV set, fix up its aerial and put on its switch, you start seeing those pictures. Same is the case with a transistor. Wherever you go, when you tune it in, you can hear its sound. Similarly, it is necessary to have a medium to hear God, to see God, who is omnipotent. Therefore, we have to go to a realized soul, prostrate to Him, and ask Him with humility, and only then He will give us the realization of that thing, that is, the realization of the self within ourselves. Thus, true spiritual knowledge is received only by the grace of the perfect spiritual master. Worldly knowledge, which is learned for material purposes to earn a living and fill the stomach, is also called knowledge, but it is not the sovereign science described by the scriptures and which leads us to God. Once Narad complained to Saint Sanat Kumar, "I am thoroughly well versed in all scriptures, in history, grammar, mathematics, ethics, debating, fortune-telling, astrology, logic, political science, etc. I am an expert in all these. I have acquired all the intellectual knowledge which comes from reading the scriptures, but I haven't realized my own soul. I have heard that knowledge of soul frees one from grief and the cycle of birth and death. But Master, I grieve. Please save me." Saint Sanat Kumar said, "Narad, all those things that you have studied are only for entertaining the mind and filling the belly. There are many kinds of knowledges and initiations. A separate book would be necessary to list them all. There are various powers and energies and mantras for invoking them. There are spells for protection against ghosts and for counteracting the poison of snakes and scorpions. People practice all kinds of techniques and postures, and some also perform miracles. Intellectuals discuss the origin of the human body and discourse on the unqualified and qualified forms of God. Some talk about pilgrimage and fasting. There are all kinds of incantations, spells and charms. There are countless mystical diagrams, formula and initiations. But without spiritual knowledge, they are all useless when it comes to realizing the soul. Lord Krishna said in the Gita that nothing is as holy and pure as spiritual knowledge. It is greater than any mantra, and this is the knowledge which we should realize. But how can mere mortals understand a knowledge whose results are 1,000 times more beneficial than anything gained from bathing at holy shrines or giving alms? Thousands of pilgrimages and good works can never give the rewards that true knowledge gives. It reveals the deepest of deep mysteries. Mental oscillations cannot be stabilized until one has practical realization of the soul. But people get confused by the word knowledge. How can its real meaning be clarified? Knowing the past, present, and future is called knowledge, but it is not true knowledge. Examining the behavior of people is also not knowledge. Studying all kinds of texts and scriptures is not knowledge. Training animals, birds, and aquatic animals is also not knowledge. Studying the properties of plants and viruses is also not knowledge. Analysis of various sciences, arts, and grammatical systems is not knowledge. Eloquence, repartee, and poetical improvisation are not knowledge. Understanding secret codes or symbolic art is not knowledge, nor is it being adept at poetry, musical composition, or dance. Sophistry, composing sweet lyrical ballads, or being accomplished in the art of love is also not knowledge. Being totally adept in the arts such as painting or playing various instruments is not knowledge. You may be accomplished in all sciences and arts, but they are still only worldly arts. They can never be called knowledge, although sometimes they might appear to be so. True knowledge is something else again. It has no connection with the natural sciences or the arts. Being able to read the thoughts of others is also regarded as knowledge, but it is not a sign of spiritual knowledge. It is not the knowledge by which we can achieve full and final liberation. So many things are called knowledge that we cannot list them all here. But that true knowledge which bestows liberation is something else. Knowledge means the pure and perfect knowledge of the soul. Realizing God, seeing the truth as it is, and being able to discern between the eternal and the ephemeral is true knowledge. Such a knowledge which takes us beyond the realm of nature cannot have anything to do with the five elements of nature. It is beyond mind and intellect. No arguments can stand against it. It cannot be written down, and it is beyond the four types of sound and phenomenal world. That which is perfect, completely unpolluted, and is purity itself is true knowledge. In ancient times, the great saints and sages such as Vasishtha, Narad, Janak, and many others achieved salvation through this knowledge. It is the secret and the core of the scriptures. Spiritual discrimination comes through experience together with faith in the knowledge and the spiritual master. You cannot get this knowledge through fasting, pilgrimages, austerities, charity, or using drugs. Spiritual knowledge is the end and the reward of all practices and sciences. It gets rid of all doubts. It is the profound mystery hidden in all the scriptures. The Vedas say, not this, and are silent. The spirituality is, in fact, to live in God consciousness form, breath to breath. It is when the consciousness, instead of flowing out and in the worldly objects, flows in and upward towards the Supreme. This is the miracle of miracle, which happens silently and spontaneously when the grace and power of Sadguru penetrates the inner being of the disciple. What is required is the total surrender and purity of heart. It is in the egoless state of mind that the God manifests himself in the heart of devotee. If there is an iota of desire or ego, the manifestation and the experience of the Supreme does not become possible. It is why that all saints and scriptures have emphasized the purity, the selflessness, and total surrender to God and the Master. These qualities naturally grow in a disciple who does disinterested service and devotion. The service and satsang cleans his impurities of mind. Service is the savior in the path of spirituality, provided it is done selflessly and egolessly. It is through service and satsang that spiritual master purifies the disciple and awakens the spirit that lies dormant in him. In day-to-day life also, we know that when a physician gives us an injection, he applies a little spirit and rubs it over our body with a small piece of cotton. Why does he rub? Because if the skin is not cleansed, there is danger of its getting septic. Similarly, if our mind does not become pure, we are scared lest it becomes septic inside. Our mind must be cleansed with the spirit of satsang and service, and then the spiritual master gives us the injection of knowledge, and only then we have vision of God. The role of the spiritual master. Vedas, Upanishads, Bible, Gita and Quran have been available to us for a long time now. So why does mankind still need saints and spiritual masters? It seems to indicate that unless and until man can experience spiritual knowledge for himself, there will always be a need for realized teachers in this world. In other words, we need the help of enlightened masters because we don't understand the deeper meaning of the scriptures. When you read scriptures, you shouldn't just read the words, but also go into their meaning. But you can understand the scriptures only when you have spiritual insight. That is why Christ said, "I have not come to destroy the scriptures, but to fulfill them." So, why is a spiritual teacher necessary? When something is written down, it is studied by many people. When you study something, you understand it according to your own IQ, according to your mental capacity. Words can be twisted and changed. If spiritual knowledge could be transcribed on paper, it could get twisted and perverted. That is why knowledge has to be given by a living soul to another living soul. Only a living master can transmit that knowledge to another living soul, and that makes it a living knowledge. It makes the knowledge alive. If you transcribed anything into books, you make it dead. Why is the knowledge a secret? Because cheap things are really pure. Goods sold in the market can be adulterated. Similarly, this knowledge is kept secret so that it won't get contaminated or diluted, so that only a true seeker, a sincere aspirant, will find it, and the spiritual master holds the key. A saint can bring the devotee close to God, but people go on pilgrimages to shrines and then go home. Why do they put God so far away from themselves? If He is omnipresent, why go only to a certain place to see Him? If the Lord is omnipresent, if He is the indwelling reality, why have we enshrined Him so far away? Why isn't He close to us? So saints give the spiritual knowledge which brings the devotee in the presence of God. Why do we need a guru? Just think about this. Whatever learning or skills we have now, we learned through some kind of teacher. You need someone's help to learn how to read. Children are sent to school to learn something. Even when we started walking, we needed someone to hold our hand and guide us. When a child learns to ride a bicycle, someone has to hold it for him and show him how to keep his balance. He falls over several times, but through practice learns how to balance, and then he has no difficulty in riding at all. And when it comes to spirituality, to getting the knowledge which leads to salvation, a teacher is essential too. The scriptures are quite firm on this point. We can travel all over the country, finding out by trial and error which road goes where. But why go to all this trouble? Simply ask someone the way. After all, life is not very long. It is not long enough to investigate all the possibilities. That is why the scriptures say, meditation starts from contemplating the Guru. Worship starts at his feet. The word is the basis for controlling the mind, and liberation comes through his grace. If you have the address of this house, you can reach me by asking along the way. But if you don't know the address, how can you ask for direction? People wonder, where should we fix our mind? On what should we meditate? That is why you need the Master. God is infinite, and our senses are finite. How can something infinite be grasped by the finite? How can the ocean be poured into a jug? That is why Krishna told Arjuna, I will give you the knowledge which is itself infinite, in which the whole universe is contained. So, knowledge is something very great. You cannot enter the door to God without the key of spiritual knowledge. Not everyone who calls himself a guru can give you this. The true master is not a dead weight. He is a living reality who can show you the truth. He can pull you out of the swamp and put you on the right path. And not only you, but thousands. A magnetic field draws all kinds of metallic things, and they attach themselves to it. A spiritual man, a realized soul, is like a magnet. He attracts one and all and doesn't discriminate against anyone. The magnet transfers its magnetism to the pieces of iron. Saint Kabir attributes the same quality to the Guru. Prostrate yourself to your Guru countless times, because he can make you like himself, just as the pringy wasp turns other insects into its own shape. This wasp is supposed to carry off larvae of other insects, enclose them in a cocoon, and by emitting a certain humming sound, transform them into its own shape. The Guru is like this. By giving knowledge, he can make a disciple as enlightened as he is. Suppose you want to purchase an acre of sky. Can a real estate agent sell it to you? No, because the sky is not for sale. It has no boundaries. However, if you purchase an acre of land, the air above it is automatically yours too. The master is like that acre of land. When you find him, the infinite knowledge, like the sky, becomes yours. The master is the medium which makes the unmanifest manifest. He turns an ordinary person into a spiritual being. He makes us realize what we really are and helps us let go of what we are not. There was a saint named Dharam who said, I bowed to the holy feet of my Guru, who revealed God's name to me. Its sound awakened my mind, which had been slumbering in ignorance for lives together. Darkness prevailed and nothing was visible until my Guru lit the lamp of knowledge in me. His nectar stilled all desires, which used to arise like poisonous waves in my heart. Deep and unfathomable is the river of life. Master, please sail my boat across it. But you cannot realize this simply by saying so, or because 20 people are saying the same thing. You cannot recognize it because a person has a lot of money. Spirituality can never be measured in meters or kilos. It can only be understood through consciousness. The most important thing is to find a teacher, but he should be one who practices what he preaches. An ordinary teacher can teach from books, but a spiritual teacher teaches from his life, and his disciple who learn the lessons will become what the teacher is. All the carriages of a train are linked up to the engine, and where the engine goes and at what speed it goes, all the carriages will follow. So, it is important to hook oneself up to a true teacher, then go wherever he takes you. There are plenty of gurus in the world, but the true master, the Sadguru, shows no discrepancy between what he says and what he does. He should be a living embodiment of the holy name and the divine light. There is no shortage of gurus who would have you only follow their teachings but not their life. It is quite feasible that someone can be a first-class science teacher even though his life and character are dubious. Why? Because the science teacher can prove his theories in a lab and leave it at that. However, when it comes to the spiritual realm, test tubes and labs are not the medium for testing principles and theories. No textbook can give you salvation. The Master's lab is his own life. If his life doesn't prove that he is following the path of yoga, then he can't preach yoga. A real spiritual teacher will never tell you to merely believe what he says and forget about what he does. Look at the life of any saint. It is transformed life. If a spiritual teacher cannot change himself, how can he change others? We can understand truth if we follow the same path and live the same spiritual life as all the saints did. Don't just listen to what someone is preaching. Check out his character and lifestyle also. Otherwise, how will you know if he can really reveal the truth to you? It is said that meeting a real saint is the result of merit accumulated over many lifetimes. Contact with the holy removes even great obstacles from your path and frees you from even the greatest sins. This is an opportunity which God in His great mercy gives to us, and if you so wish, you can be liberated. I say this because everyone has free will. I think that once creatures are given birth, they are given a limited freedom to adjust and function in the material world. A spirit should be given some liberty to adjust to its material environment and body, or else it cannot function. And it has been seen from history that whenever man becomes disillusioned and deluded and follows the wrong path, masters and prophets come to correct him. They act like the farmer who, after sowing his seeds, comes often to inspect his plants, and if there are any weeds in the field, he takes them out. He waters the crop, and day after day he looks after it. Similarly, the great masters come to nurture, to protect humanity. Once a person starts meditating, the problem of an unsuitable environment may arise. Maybe he is trying his best, he is putting all his efforts into meditation, but nothing is happening. So what then is necessary? When a rocket enters the moon's field of gravity, it is automatically pulled towards the moon. In the same way, when you enter the sphere of a master, he begins to pull you, attract you, and with his own power makes you meditate. A devotee knows how the master makes him meditate, how he inspires him to such an extent that he meditates. Anyway, people are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you gain false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. People favor underdogs but follow only top dogs. Fight for underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People need help but may attack you if you help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have and you will be kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have got anyway. You alone can break the cord that binds us now. No one but you. O Krishna, you are the tree, I, the bird that nests in your branches. You are the ocean, I, the fish that swims in your deeps. You are the hill, I, the peacock who dances on your top. You are the full moon, I, the chakor bird that never turns its gaze from your light. You are the gold, I, the powder rubbed on to make you shine. O my Master, Thou art Lord of the three worlds. I am Mirabai, the one who sings your song, hoping you will hear me. Mirabai. It is a scientific fact that all atoms combine with one another simply to become inert, to be satisfied, that is, to be complete. In the same way, man, who is made of billions of atoms, has an inherent nature and tendency to attain inertness and total satisfaction. Man goes on experimenting with one and another object till he gets total satisfaction. When he finds it not in the worldly objects and achievements, he turns towards religion and spirituality, which gives an assurance of total satisfaction and perfection. We have none to quote in the field of the world, kings or queens, millionaires or billionaires, conqueror or adventurer, who can claim to attain the supreme. But in the field of spirituality, we have examples of Buddha and Mahavir. Guru Nanak and Kabir, whose life is an expression of total satisfaction and bliss. Therefore, to whatever sect, to whatever religious groups we go, we find concepts like heaven, salvation, etc. Because the evolution, the optimum limit, the goal of a man has been defined as salvation, as the stage of supreme consciousness, as the state of samadhi, where the experience of perfection and totality becomes a reality. Satpalji Maharaj.